Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now.
This weekend, I spent some time in Arizona, specifically the Phoenix area. I was down there for PodCamp Arizona, and it was a lot of fun. I can tell you the highlight of my trip wasn't PodCamp, but it was actually flying in and then flying out again. The landscape was just amazing. In fact, I happened to record a few clips on the way back home. I plan on putting them together inside some kind of montage and then uploading it to the YouTube account just so you can see what it's like, so that if you ever happen to be flying over that area, possibly coming from the north, into Arizona, then you'll want to sit on one side of the plane or the other just so you can get this view. It was absolutely spectacular. So I was down in Phoenix, or the area of Phoenix, because it's just kind of like one city that's latched onto another, that's latched onto another, and it just never stops. It never ends. I was there to talk specifically about community and really facilitate discussions around community. And I had, I think, a pretty good time. Everyone seemed to be happy with what had transpired both days. I did a similar session each day. Every time I talk, it's different. It always is. And then I ended up pinch hitting for Giovanni, who couldn't make it, and talked about how people could use social media tools to effect change throughout the world. And that one went very well too, although I don't think anybody officially captured that. I did record both of my community sessions. They're on my Ustream account. I'm not likely to upload those to YouTube just because the lighting was a little wonky, and it was good. I mean, everybody enjoyed themselves, including the hundreds of people who were watching online. But anyway, one of the people I met there was Lon Safko, and he's working on a book, and I don't know if I can announce the book that he's writing, so I'm not going to announce that book yet. But he's asked a series of questions that I'm going to answer with him on a separate private interview, and then he's going to transcribe them and put the notes inside this book. And so I thought I would, answer these questions here inside the video, just, answering them for you and for the rest of the community, which is quite apropos since the series of questions is related to the community and building a community. And that was his first question. What is community building? And I guess I would define community building as the act of creating some kind of rally point on the internet, and then feeding it not just people, but various sets of tools that people could use to collaborate with one another, to communicate with one another, to build things together, or to share their experiences. And it is much like planting a garden. You've got, let's say a row of carrots and a row of celery and a row of tomatoes and a row of uh, garbanzo beans. You've got different rows, and each one of those rows is got a different vegetable, and it's got its own flavor. But you can have people visit your garden, and you can and people can enjoy eating the fruits or vegetables of your labor in this garden. And a community is much like the same, I guess, the similar concept. I mean, if you'll let me use this as an example. Each row is just a different type of experience, just like inside a community site, a construct, you have various and sundry things potentially that a user can do. Some communities rally around one tool or another. So you could have a garden of nothing but tomatoes. That would be like having a forum online. It's just a forum. But then as soon as you add like blogs to the mix, another tool, well, then it's just like adding another vegetable or potentially fruit to your garden. And community building is much. You do the similar things. You feed, you water, you care for it, you make sure it gets enough sunlight. And that would be like, what would be the equivalent of giving sunlight to a community online? Sharing links back and forth so that people know where they can go to interact. You may find that on Twitter, through my Twitter account. I've got like 20,000 followers at this point, and sometimes I'll run across a really interesting, blog post, maybe a video upload, maybe someone joined geeks.pirillo.com, one of the communities that I've certainly been fostering over the past couple of months. I think it's not even been 2 months since we launched that thing. And I'm letting people know that it exists, so I'll highlight certain things. Of course, I do cross-posting in my own blog at chris.pirillo.com. I've got a set of forums that have existed for years and years and years. Help.lockernome.com It's a different set of forums than the forums we have at geeks.pirillo.com. I mean, they're just different communities for different people. Potentially, there's some crossover, but community is one of those things, when you're building it, it's the experience that you're sharing with everybody else who's wanting to participate. So it's very collaborative every step of the way. It's never, and it should never be like administrator over here, community owner over here, and then everybody else. It should be as much of a hodgepodge, a mixture as possible, a potpourri, a digital potpourri. Number 2, the question: why is community building important? Well, you can't just, okay, let's use the garden example again. I'm using this is off the top of my head. You can't just throw seeds into the ground and then just expect that they're going to grow. You just can't, right? I mean, like, let's say you had a little bag of tomato seeds and you just sprinkled them and then you just came back 3 months later and you're like, dude, what the? Nothing's happening, because all you had the seeds, you had that, you had the soil, you had that, you had weather, sunshine, you had everything was there, but you didn't really have your connection with it. You weren't taking care of things. So community building is important because, without the experience of, fostering this development, the community owner, the administrators, the moderators, they're really doing nothing. You've got to love it. It's got to be just in you. And I'm very, very grateful for the people who have been helping with geeks.pirillo.com and help.lockergnome.com, the communities that, I've kind of tried to build over time, and certainly the efforts that they make are quite appreciated. And I think we've got a pretty definitive list of the admins, and I'll ask Kat before we list them out, to say thank you, because inevitably if I say their names in the video, I'll miss somebody, and then I won't be able to go back and edit their names in. It's not that easy. But community building is very important because, you could just put a blog online or a forum online or a discussion list online or any given tool online, and it's just like throwing seeds on the ground. I mean, you got to take care of it. You've got to find other people who want to help you take care of it. It's important, though, because sometimes community exists whether those tools are there or not. So sometimes you have to give your community a voice if the community is there in the first place or if they're not someplace else. Number 3, how did you use community building to build your community? Well, if I'm still understanding the questions, for me, each time I build something new, it's like starting from scratch. It always is that way, because there's a lot of things that are happening online, and I thought I could use this particular platform just to have fun, and that's really what geeks.pirillo.com has been. It's just been fun. Some days I participate more than other days, just like everybody else out there. The participation ebbs and flows, and I took the approach of seeing what you guys were all about. And so how I used the community building to build this community is I was really wanting to find out all these people who've been in the chat room for a while, or maybe they just started. At this point you could get basic information about them, or they may jump in and post a link, and you can find out a YouTube video or whatever, but there's really no rich information that we could surface from the people who were in this chat room of sorts, these hundreds of people that would just come in and leave, but we'd get used to their handles and we'd like to see more about them. It would have been nice to have this one community place for it. So really I was looking for more information about you. And that's one of the reasons, or the big reason, why geeks.pirillo.com exists, to kind of bridge this gap between this live chat room and a place where interaction can happen in a synchronous manner, where you can go participate and then leave, and then somebody else can go and participate and leave, versus live real-time experience. Everybody has to be here at the same time to experience that participation. Number 4, how would you recommend that someone get started in building their own community? This is a question that was raised earlier, and I mean this weekend. It starts really not just with a passion that you have or that you might have. It starts with what you're good at. So you're passionate about something and you're good at something. So what are you good at? And hopefully you're good at one of possibly 4 things. Are you good at writing? Are you good at sitting in front of a camera? Are you good at sitting in front of a microphone? Are you good at taking pictures? What media do you excel at the most? And let's say, you're equal across the board. Well, then which one's your favorite? But let's say you can write really well, but you're really suck at video. Well, then you wouldn't want to try video, at least not without some help. But let's say you're really good at video and you suck at writing. Well, then you don't do so much writing, but you do it all in video. So you're passionate about something, you choose a medium that you're really good at, and then you just go. You say, look, I'm passionate about this stuff. I'm really interested in what you guys are doing. Here's what I'd like to do. And you just start talking, you start rolling and going. And before you know it, people might be following you and sharing these experiences. In fact, I had a card from somebody this weekend, and I don't know where it is. I met someone who was talking about this very same thing, also about community building and these experiences. And one of the tips he had was, involve the community, the audience, as much as possible. Honestly, I could not make this video experience that we do every day at live.pirillo.com more interactive than I do. Putting the chat inside the stream. Sometimes it's moderated, sometimes it's not. Sometimes we leave it unmoderated while we're recording a video, and sometimes it gets locked down in the middle of the video because people can't behave themselves. It's just like real life, only, we can kick and ban people from the chat room with a greater degree of ease. Number 5, what would be the most important things that someone should do and not do while building community? Are you familiar with Of Mice and Men? Where one of the characters he squeezed the puppy dog so tightly that the puppy died, and then inevitably the girl in the story, died because he kind of did the same thing. That's an example of probably a poor community leader. Again, hopefully you'll appreciate these comparisons that I'm trying to make. The hope is that you don't become a Lenny, tell them about the rabbits, George. You remember? Okay, if you never read the book, watch the movie, at least the one with Gary Sinise and John Malkovich. Excellent movie. I thought an excellent adaptation of the book. That's my perspective. But when you squeeze something so tight, you don't give it enough room to breathe. You don't give it any air. You constrict it. You limit it. And community doesn't really grow organically that way. And if a community, or an alleged community, isn't grown organically, well then, I don't know if I'd really consider it a community, because every community that I've ever experienced that had a heart and a soul, it grew, just started somewhere and then just grew and grew and grew. And you could tend to it much like you might tend to a bonsai. Where you trim it, you clip it, you take care of it, you kind of shape it to how you like it to be, but ultimately the direction of the branches are going to go wherever they want to go. I mean, it's just going to be, and you have to tend to it. Again, kind of going back to the whole plant garden illusion. So you don't want to restrict it. You want to guide it and shape it, and let it be. And just kind of sit back and really let people inside the community dictate how the community grows. That's really the best way to foster a community. Just let them do it. And when bad things happen at geeks.pirillo.com, and bad things do happen, or just wacky things, some of the first people to tell me are the more active members. They'll say, hey, there's something going on. I'm like, oh, thank you. And then I'm able to take a look at it. Sometimes I'm able to catch it. Sometimes a moderator is able to catch it. And sometimes the community polices itself. And in my opinion, that's a healthy community. Number 6, can you think of any business success stories you can share with us about building community? Business success stories. That's a difficult question to answer. Everybody's got a different model that they're going for. Some people build community because they're looking to connect with like-minded individuals. Some people are building community because they have a business, and they're looking to give their membership a voice, a chance to be heard, a chance to interact with one another. And I think as far as I'm concerned, and maybe this is an odd application of community building, I'm going to use Microsoft as a prime example of a business success story. I do not know another company on the planet that has been so prolific in blogging and letting its employees blog. Now, it's not to say that every employee at Microsoft who has a blog is, prolific, but I can tell you I've seen so many Microsoft blogs out there, and it's because that's the circle I run in is, inside the world of technology. But they're so free with that information that it just creates a compelling experience. And in some cases, I've blogged about things, and a Microsoft blogger would contact me, and he would have an answer to the question because he worked on the team for a particular product or service, and that was community. That was community engagement because I'm a part of the community. This idea of community, this unwieldy thing. There's no tool that necessarily connects me with Microsoft other than the blogs or the blog software that they happen to use so that their bloggers may blog. And could I use the word blog one more time in the sentence? So they were using this tool, blog or blog platform, to communicate and create a voice for these people inside the organization. And then vicariously, me as a member of this larger technology enthusiast community was somehow connected to that because of various, small pieces loosely joined, to borrow the phrase from David Weinberger. And if I had a business success story, I can guarantee that Microsoft is doing that. They are, can't believe I'm saying this, probably the warmest tech company, at least in terms of numbers, and bloggers out there, that I can see and I've perceived. Certainly there's a lot of different types of styles for blogging, but I think they've taken the right approach, at least the way they allow their employees to interact with the community in general, whether it's a community of Microsoft people, a community of Microsoft users, a community of technology enthusiasts, a bigger bubble, or just whatever. I mean, there's communities can exist inside communities, inside communities, inside communities. It's never one thing. And to use this example as I close this out, because that was the last question, people ask, well, where does community exist? And community, in my opinion, always exists in you. You are community. You are a walking Venn diagram. That's as far as I'm going to take it. You're right in the middle of all these circles that possibly intersect. And if you don't know what a Venn diagram is, you should learn, because it's an excellent way to visualize the idea that how community exists, the idea of community. At least my perspective of how community exists. So my email address is chris@pirillo.com. Maybe you have other ideas in relation to community. I'd be interested in your thoughts, certainly. Feel free to leave a follow-up. And you're also welcome to join us in our community at geeks.pirillo.com. Then, of course, we've got this other live community, this chat room of sorts that is also a part of this live video, the Chris Pirillo experience that is streaming out over the web. Yeah, live video, 24 hours a day. And a lot of people just saw my empty chair this weekend when I wasn't streaming down there. So thanks for keeping the faith. And you have to pardon me if I was itching my nose. In Arizona, apparently they don't believe in moisture. And I'm here in Seattle, and that's all we have. So, I'm totally because the moisture is coming back. In fact, after landing, I was like, hua, 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 for like a half hour because I could suddenly breathe again. So everything was moving again. So maybe Seattle could, the community in Seattle can send some moisture down to Arizona, when they really, really need it. And I guess they really, really do, because it does rain in Arizona, but it just usually only happens one day out of the year. I did enjoy Arizona. I really did. I would likely visit it again. Wonderful time, great people, plenty of things to do in Arizona, at least in Phoenix, and there was tons of things. I mean, you could just drive and drive and drive, and it would never stop. I mean, it would. Obviously, it's limited. Anyway, thank you for the organizers of PodCamp Arizona for introducing me to your area and your community and letting me come in and be a part of that community, at least this particular weekend. If you'd like to join us in our community, we're typically talking tech here in the chat room. And, I noted that I'm streaming out this video live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week and I mentioned this earlier in the video, and I'm sure the chat room is going to tell you where you can find us streaming any second now, because of course we got lag since it's live. Thank you. Live.pirillo.com. We'll see you later.